Today's lesson is going to cover volume of prisms and cylinders. So what is a prism? Well, we might refer to a prism as a box, but in geometry terms, we refer to this type of a shape, and it's three-dimensional, as a prism. And prisms can come in many different varieties. Prisms can be rectangular, and prisms can be triangular. This all has to do with what kind of shape the base is. The shape of the base could be a triangle, and therefore referred to as triangular, or the shape of the base could be rectangular, maybe a square, but also maybe a rectangle. It all has to do with it. Also, prisms have two bases, and they're always going to be parallel from each other. So how do you find the volume of a prism? Well, you just have to first know where the base is, and once you find the area of that base, you multiply by the height. The base in this instance is rectangular, so we find it by doing length times width. The height is the distance from one base up to the other base. So in this spot, we will be doing length times width. So let's apply this formula and find some volumes. Here's a rectangular prism. It has a base, which is rectangular. This base has a length of 5 and a width of 3, and the prism itself has a height of 4. So to find the volume of this prism, which is base area times height, we're going to multiply the length times the width times the height of the prism, which would be 5 times 3 times 4, which would be equal to 60 feet cubed. Now do notice that in the last lesson we put feet squared, but now we're putting feet cubed because we're talking about volume, and volume is measured in cubic units, so we put feet cubed. Also, another reason why we put cubed is because we multiplied 3 different lengths, or 3 different measurements. 5 times 3 times 4 is feet times feet times feet, feet cubed. Let's try this one more time. Again, this is the base of the prism because it is parallel to the same shape, the same side of the prism, which is rectangular. 5 is the length, 2 is the width, and 4 is the height of the prism. Remember, height always connects base to base. Always. So our volume is going to be found by doing 5 times 2 times 4. So our volume is 40 inches cubed, or cubic inches. If I have an ice tray that is 5 inches long, 3 inches wide, and 1 inch deep, each ice cube freezes into perfect cubes. Approximately how much water is used? Well, we could approach this problem from 2 different ways. We could approach it from understanding that this is the 5 inches, this is the 3 inches wide, and the height here is 1 inch. So we could find volume by doing 5 times 3 times 1, which would be 15 inches cubed. The other way we could approach this problem is we could find the volume of just 1 cube. The volume of 1 cube of ice would be found by doing 1 inch times 1 inch times 1 inch. The volume of this ice cube is 1 times 1 times 1, which is equal to just 1 inch cubed. But then we would take that 1 inch cube and multiply by how many there are. There are a total of 15 cubes. So the total volume would be 15 times 1, which still gives you the same answer, 15 inches cubed. Let's talk about cylinders. You might call a cylinder a can. We know this because our food comes in cans, we put our garbage in the cans, and even our soda comes in cans. But all these things are cylinders. Cylinders have a circular base. But like the prism, there are always two of them, and they are always parallel of each other. So how do you find the volume of a cylinder? Well, since it's really a lot like the volume of a prism, but the only difference is that base is no longer a rectangle, it's a circle. And the area of a circle, since we did that in our last lesson, is pi r squared. So we would take our radius and use it in pi r squared, which is the area of a circle. And then multiply that area of the circular base times the height. So this is the formula that we're going to want to remember and use in our problems for cylinders. So let's find the volume of this cylinder. We have a 5 for our radius and 11 for our height. The volume formula is pi r squared times height. So let's plug in these values. Pi times 5 squared times 11. Don't forget, we are using our calculators to get an exact answer for pi. Equals 863.9 units cubed. I put units cubed for this problem because our problem didn't really give us a kind of unit like feet or inches or centimeters. In the second example for our cylinders, we are not actually given the radius. Instead, we're given a diameter. Our diameter is 8. But to find our radius, we just need to take that 8 and divide it by 2. So my radius is 4 feet. Now we're ready to use our volume formula. Pi times the radius, which is 4, squared, times the height, which is 10. It's okay that they did not put the 10 along the edge of the cylinder. It's just important that this height is always perpendicular to the base. Now it's time to use our calculators to do pi times 4 squared times 10. I get 502.7 feet cubed. So that covers it for our examples. Don't forget to hit the submit button once you're done watching all the video.